Okay, it's 6:05, and I think that I'll get started with this event called Meet the CFA. It's our first inaugural one. Welcome, everybody. The purpose of this meeting is just to learn a little bit more about the CFA, what it's done for me in my career. We're going to have different board members and different members of the CFA Society South Carolina discuss how they've used the CFA throughout their careers. And this also gives you an opportunity if you have any questions about the logistics of the testing, and also about the scholarships that there's still some scholarships out there that we would like to tell you about. And finally, during the survey that we had with our society, that one of the things that people said they really liked and wanted more of was networking. So we thought this could be a little mini networking opportunity as well. And so what I thought I would do, if everybody's okay with that, if we could just go around the room real quickly, and if you could just give me your name, where you work and what you do, or if you're a student, where you go to school, and if you are registered for the test, or if you already are, what level you're at. So Katie, would you like to start? Oh, are you trying to unmute yourself? Did that work?
There you go.
There
you got me.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Katie Stokes. I'm also with the CFA Society South Carolina, and I'm actually a relatively new charter holder. So I got it almost exactly 1 year ago was when I passed my level 3 test. So it's still pretty fresh. But so if you have any questions or anything you need from me, I can help you out. I also work a lot with membership and candidate engagement, scholarships, anything you need from a candidate perspective. I'm one of your go-to people, me and Karen. So if you need anything, let me know.
Excellent. And Jessica, would you like to go next? Are you there? Yep.
I'm actually a finance undergrad at Clemson University.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for joining us. And Liz, would you like to go?
Hi, everyone. My name is Liz DeFreitas. I'm actually a relationship manager with CFA Institute. So I work closely with the South Carolina board. So I'm just here to listen, to hear what kind of questions you guys have. But congratulations for the society for lifting this new event.
Stavro?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you. My name is Stavro Najjar. I'm currently a second year, I don't know what you want to call it, financial analyst at Blackbaud in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. And Mike?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can.
Good deal, thanks. Mike Hawkins, I work with Ag First Farm Credit Bank, our capital markets group in Columbia. I manage a loan portfolio consisting of syndicated and participated loans in the agribusiness space. Yep.
Thanks. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And Yighton, is that how you say it?
It's Jayton. It's a weird one. Yeah, no, it's a weird one. Nobody gets it right. It's okay. Don't worry. No, I'm actually in the same boat as Jessica. I'm a finance undergrad at Clemson.
Oh, well, I'm glad that you guys could join us. So, I will discuss a little bit about my background as well. I'd love this to be interactive. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to interrupt me. So I joined the board of the CFA Society of South Carolina. I'm one of the newer board members here, but I have I got my charter over 20 years ago. So I had it when everything was written, nothing was computer. It was only given once a year. So a lot of things have changed since then. It was also not even called the CFA Institute. And it was the AIMR, the Association for Investment Management and Research. So I've seen a lot of changes. It's always been in Charlottesville, but other than that, there's been a lot of changes in the society since I started. And So just to give you a history of how I came into the CFA is when I graduated from college, I actually wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I actually have a very funny story. I had the opportunity to go into sales for Butterball, making a lot of money, or to work for a brokerage firm. And I thought, well, you know what? I don't really like the idea of selling turkeys the rest of my life. So I will, I will go into the brokerage firm. So, I went in there knowing really nothing about the markets. And I was very fortunate because it was a very small firm. And it was actually a satellite office. It was a UK company called SG Warburg. And I was living in Boston at the time. And they had the satellite office in Boston. So we actually had investment banking, trading, and sales. So I got access to all of that right away. And so I was doing institutional sales there. And I really enjoyed what I was doing, but from the get-go, I realized that doing analysis was really my forte. I was in investor relations and economics undergrad, so I really liked the research aspect of it. So I jumped on over to the buy side, over to Wellington Management Company, and at the time, it was the 4th largest mutual fund company in the world. And they actually, if you wanted to move up in their analyst program, you actually had to get the CFA. So they actually paid you to take it. And at that time, I still, I was just about to go to business school, and I had told myself, it's like, oh, so I had studied for the exam quite extensively. The Boston Society offered, some great classes for us. And they really prepped us very well. And so I told myself, well, if I pass this exam, I guess I'm going to stay in and become an analyst. And so in those days, it was like 4 months of waiting for it to get your exam results. And so I nervously waited. I opened the envelope and I passed. And I said, okay, well, it looks like I'm committed. So I continued on with that when I was in business school, and it was invaluable. So, those of you who are students right now, just the curriculum is fantastic. What you learn in business and finance is a really nice complement to what you're learning in school. And so when I was in business school, I really enjoyed doing that. And then so I was in the 2-year MBA program at Babson in Boston, and part of their program was they had a global internship. And so I'd applied to work for the Swiss bank in Basel, Switzerland, and so they took me because I was already a level 1 CFA. So already out the door, I was already getting some traction from what the CFA was getting for me. And what my job was for that company was I was supposed to, it had 3 aspects to an emerging markets fund. It has a closed-end fund. It was equally weighted. And then it had some, also did some bottom-up research as well. And so my job was to defend each aspect of it. So, when you're doing a lot of the statistics that you learn in the CFA program, and even in your business classes, you wonder how much of this do you actually use? And I was using Z-scores for this paper, and it actually was it was published in an international finance magazine. And so it was great. I was already getting some of the benefits of the CFA before, just being a level 2 candidate. And so when I went back to business school, the bank had called me and they said they had gotten enough traction on the paper that I had written, and that they were able to get some clients that they wanted to hire me on to be a portfolio manager. Now, once again, the CFA was really big. And at that time, the CFA really hadn't gone global yet. They had it a little bit, but it was primarily U.S. designation. It was considered the gold standard. Which still is considered the gold standard, but it was, there were only a few of us that had it at that time. And so this company wanted to hire me on because of the CFA, because it was a European product they wanted to sell into the US market. And so they knew having a CFA attached to that would definitely lend them a lot more credibility. So while I was there, I continued to study, and I finished out the CFA program. It was an amazing experience. And that was something that they were starting to use me a little bit in Europe just to talk about the CFA program. And in fact, you know, for the whole European, for the educational program, there are only like 5 of us that were studying for them. And now, you know, the numbers are, you know, way through the roof, and it's global and in tiny little villages in India now. So it's pretty exciting to see how much that has grown. And, you know, when I came back to the US, after that, I was hired on as a consultant to create an index fund. And, you know, this is before, you know, indexing for a lot of people who are fairly new to the market, that's something that seems very commonplace. But, you know, in the late 90s, that was a brand new thing. And so the CFA program was cutting edge in terms of teaching us how to create index funds and what to do. So again, because of the CFA, I was able to stay cutting edge, learn what was going on in the market. And I was able to I created an internet fund at the time, and it was exciting to apply everything that I had been learning in the program. And another aspect of it was they also had the, you know, global performance standards, the GIPS. I'm not sure those of you that are familiar with that or not. If you're not in the program yet, they don't introduce that to you yet. But that was another thing that I was able to use throughout my career. And, you know, I usually worked for pretty small firms, and so I've had my hand in the compliance pie as well. And that's another area that I've been able to use the CFA extensively. And you know, one thing that the whole CFA Institute and everybody involved with it really emphasizes the ethics of the program. And in fact, at the time when I was taking it, you could really do super well on the exam, but if you didn't pass the ethics exam, that portion of it, they wouldn't pass you on the exam. So it was really, really highly important, and yet another reason why it was considered the gold standard. And then, you know, after that, I started an investor relations firm. And that's when my children were small and I wanted to work part-time. And so, you know, in the investor relations world, you know, you're working directly with the CFOs, you're talking, you know, helping them deal with their quarterly earnings and dealing with investors, trying to get the sell side coverage, trying to get the buy side to purchase them. And again, the CFA was invaluable for me in terms of getting me through doors, because, you know, in the investor relations, a lot of times it's the communication side of the company that runs that, and they just kind of, you know, they don't know a lot about the investor side and just kind of fake it. So for my clients, I was actually able to get them several more shareholders and be able to give them access to the high-end money managers because of the CFA, because it gives you credibility and gets you through doors. And then after that, I moved out to Washington State, and, you know, at that time I decided that I wanted to get involved in the CFA board. And the Spokane Society out there was fairly small, and they recruited me out there to be on their board. And at that time, that's when I really started to get heavily involved in the CFA Institute. In fact, I was actually there when they were, you know, working through the naming of it. You know, I started just being an active part of the board. And then after that then I became an officer and worked my way up. And while I was doing that, I was able to work with people. The CFA Institute is so good about connecting you with the players in the market, you know, and in almost any aspect within the finance industry, within the investment industry, they'll connect you with them. And, you know, they put courses together, and they will, you know, one of the big things is, you know, once you're within the membership group, people will listen to you. You know, people will take your call. When you're looking for jobs, if you have a CFA and you're looking up another member, even if they don't have a job for you, they'll often take your call, just because you've earned that right with the, you know, just showing how hard you work to get your CFA. And so when I was on the board of Spokane, I got involved with it regionally, where really we were trying to grow the society. And I'm not sure what the numbers are right now. Liz might be able to pop in and give us some more numbers with the number that are involved in it. But I mean, we went from hundreds to thousands to 10,000s of people, you know, getting the CFA and really getting those numbers up and building the branding and the marketing. So, you know, one of the things I'd really like to encourage you is that even before you get your CFA, to get very active within the CFA society. You know, we have networking events as you know, as I said when we started out. And we're, you know, have educational events like these. We also, you know, we were just talking this morning about getting involved with the Orlando Society, doing some co-branding, doing some co-events together. We try to link people up so that we can really make sure that our memberships maximizes everything, you know, maximizes all the opportunities for you, and, you know, even be able to help you when you're looking for jobs and you're looking for questions and you need some more insight. So, you know, that's one of the things that I did when I was at Washington State. And while doing that, I was doing an event, and historically all my work had been on the equity side. And so I was at one of the events, my last boss, I met him there, and he asked me if I had any interest in working in fixed income. I said, you know, I've always done equities. You know, I don't know if that's what I want to do, even though I had done Fabosi, and I know how to value a bond. But he said, you know what? I really think you're the perfect person for the job. And because you're a CFA, you're smart, and I know you can learn it. So I learned about fixed income very quickly. And that's what I've been doing for the last 12 years. I love the fixed income. So I've done both sides. And, you know, I kind of laughed that the CFA would get me through doors when, you know, until I'm in the home. And, you know, and so I just, you know, I wave the flag of the CFA because it's been very good to me. And I'd really encourage any of you that, you know, that to stay with the program, and it's really worth it. And, you know, I would really, yeah, at this point, I would be curious to see if you guys have any questions about it and how you can utilize the society. I think it would be helpful, Katie, if you could get on and tell them a little bit about when the testing will be, and if there have been any changes there, and also about the scholarship. That would be really helpful.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay, I was saying the host wasn't allowing me.
All right.
So the CFA Society of South Carolina. So let me back up a little bit for those not familiar, because this confused me a whole lot when I first started. There's the CFA Institute, which is the global body that is in charge of programming and the exam and content and all those wonderful things. Then underneath that are all these local societies. And the local societies drive much of this information to our members and our groups and our people. So being a member of the Institute itself has huge benefits, whether you're a candidate or considering or whatever. You can be members of the Institute, but the local society is different in that it gives you those more personal connections, and that's where the events come from and things like that. So when I became a candidate, I joined both immediately. You don't have to join the Institute or the society to become when you're a candidate. However, I joined both immediately. I was actually on the board before I even passed my last test. so I was elected a board member in July, and I got my exams in August. My exam results.
Fantastic.
So there's a lot of room to meet people and talk with people. As far as the exam itself, I know we have several people on here that are either candidates or considering being candidates, students. And so let me back up a little bit about the exam. It's not easy. So we'll start there. I'm also a CFP, a Certified Financial Planner. And to be frank, when I came out and I took the CFP exam, there was never a doubt in my mind that I passed it. I was like, whatever, okay, that's done. You know, it wasn't hard. I learned stuff and it was important at the time, but the CFA is a whole new level of knowledge. It's just different. And I did it because I wanted to. I didn't do it because I had to in my career. I did it because I wanted to learn things, and if you're not learning, you're getting dumber. So, so I decided to keep learning. But in getting involved with the local society, we tried to do a lot of things to help our candidates, and a lot of these things seem to go, I don't know if people don't know about them or these resources aren't being fully used. So let me start with, one is scholarships. The CFA Institute has scholarships. They have an access scholarship, which is a needs-based scholarship. They have a women's scholarship. They have a couple other ones. I can't remember. I think they have one if you're like a professor or something like that. The Institute has scholarships. You are also working with every other person applying to the CFA Institute for these scholarships. Our local society also offers scholarships. We have every year 2 women's scholarships that are $500 reimbursed to you. So you pay for the exam, we send you a check for $500 if you're a scholarship recipient. Unfortunately, you have to be a woman. Sorry, those who aren't. But that's part of our Women in Investment initiative. We also are able to offer several Kaplan scholarships for the study materials. Some people's employers will pay for exams, but they may not pay for these study materials. And let me tell you, I took level 1 the first time. I opened up the material, I saw the volume of it, and I said, nope, no thanks. It wasn't even worth the attempt without getting some source, whether it's Kaplan or Wiley, or you can pick a lot of different sources. But
I'll actually interject there, Katie, is you cannot pass the exam if you do not do a supplemental program. It just won't happen. I can tell you story after story of people who thought, well, I'm in business school, I'm doing finance and I can fake it, and it just won't. You're throwing away your money. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah. So we do offer these scholarships for 2020, even for the 2020 exam, December, we actually have one Kaplan scholarship and 1 women's scholarship left. So if anyone's interested, if anyone's taking it at that time, you can go to the CFA, just Google CFA Society South Carolina, find the website, click on the scholarships link, and you apply just by emailing us, basically. So that's out there. Also, part of doing this is giving you an opportunity to see other people that are perhaps interested in taking the exam or considering it, or are in the middle of it, or have finished it and are just looking for jobs, or all kinds of different resources. So can I guess throw it out there, Karen, and see if anybody has any initial questions about the exam itself. I know a couple of your students, I'm not sure if you're registered or if you're considering it. So anyone, can we open that up, Karen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead and unmute yourself if you have a question.
Yeah, so I just had a quick question. So me being a student, I've been kind of just starting to look into this stuff. I mean, obviously, I know, most people don't take it until after college anyways. But what are when do most people actually start studying and, start working towards their level 1 and stuff like that?
I'll take that one. I'm a little newer doing this, so I'll take this one. I can tell you what I did, and I can tell you what people do. So like I said, when I started level 1, I'd actually had an intern that worked for me that did the CFA program right out of college. And he said, Katie, you'll be fine. Level 1 is college finance. I said, great. And then I went, crap, I haven't taken college finance in, at that point, 12 years. So I'm like, oh, but typically I wouldn't recommend registering on the deadline and then trying to take a December exam. Give yourself 6 months. I think as a student, you can take it in your final year of, I know actually as a student, you can take it as long as you're a senior. So you can actually take it during school and get that level 1 out of the way. So by the time you graduate, you're already a CFA level 1, which isn't really a thing. Like you're either a CFA charter holder or you're not, but you can say you've passed level 1 of the exam, and that's perfectly reasonable to say. I would definitely recommend that if you can do it, just because for several reasons. One, typically you're in the world of studying. You haven't started a new job yet that requires generally a lot of time, a lot of those other things. You may also have family situations where you're not having, you know, a couple little kids running around like I did and a full-time job and those other things. So I'd say the earlier you can knock these out, the better, the easier it's going to be for you. But give yourself 6 months to study. I wouldn't rush it because you're probably going to be wasting your time.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you.
And Mike has a question.
Yeah, a couple questions. One, piggybacking off the last question, would you recommend starting, much further than 6 months in advance? And second question, curious on your thoughts regarding the computer exams now, the move that the CFA has made to that.
Karen, you want to take that? You want me to field it?
I'm sorry, I was reading the chat question. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. First question was, would you recommend starting your studying program much longer than 6 months in advance, or will some of the material become stale perhaps by the time you actually sit for the exam? And two, I'm curious what all of your thoughts are on moving to the computer-based exams away from the paper exams.
Well, I'll fill definitely the first question. I think 6 months is a good amount of time. And especially once you get in the cycle, like for me, it was only given once a year. So we kind of do 6 months on, 6 months off. But now that it's, they're more frequent, 6 months is a pretty good amount of time. I wouldn't give it much less than that. And I cannot speak to the computer-based because I did mine all by hand. I think it would have, I think it would have made things a lot easier if we did that by computer.
Yeah. There's actually, there's a lot of resources, and Mike, I can send them to you as far as there's a whole bunch of FAQs and things on computer-based testing and how that's going to work. I think it's somewhere the Institute had to go, and they were going that way for level 1. Level 2 and 3 actually have been put to computer-based testing sooner due to the coronavirus. So it opens a lot of flexibility. So when I took the exam, I had to show up, I had to be in a room with 1,000 other people on the exact same day. And if I was sick or if, whatever, you take it. One of our board members, she was pregnant and was throwing up the whole time, and she would get up and throw up and come back and keep taking her test. But that's just what you did. The computer-based testing has windows. So I think it'll be a little bit, I don't want to say easier. The test will not be easier. Let me make that very clear. The test is going to be slightly shorter with computer-based testing. The written test was 3 hours. You had a 2-hour break-ish, depending on when you actually got out of the room, and then another 3 hours. The computer-based testing is 2.5-hour sections. You can take a break in the middle or not. So it's a little bit different, but it's not, I don't think it's going to be easier. I can tell you right now, it's not going to be easier. But to be honest, nobody's done it yet.
Well, I found is interesting because level 1 was multiple choice the first year that I did that, and that was a really big deal. It was shift there, and so they tend to make it shorter. They'll make the questions sometimes a little bit more complex because it's like they definitely give that balance. I have I'm going to read a few things that are in the chat, and also send me a quick chat if you want to ask a question, but for some reason I didn't hit the right button where you can unmute yourself. Forgive me for that. So just a few, I'll read through some of the chat comments. Liz, in terms of the number of members right now, we have The CFA Institute has 180,000 members around the world with 160 member societies, like Spokane in South Carolina, in 70 plus territories. The CFA Institute just celebrated 100,000 members in the Americas region. Our members have access to a global network, as Katie had shared. The other thing is seniors can register and sit for level 1, but they will need to graduate before registering for level 2. And also, please note that the registration has closed for December 2020, but February 2021 is open.
So let me also, level 1 now has 4 periods per year. The level 1 is February, May, August, November of 2021. So there are 4 different exam dates now for level 1. Level 2 is still 2, but level 1 is 4 exam dates. As far as when to register, I would say sooner rather than later. And get it done. They are offering, this is I don't know, Liz, maybe you can clarify also, if anyone is signed up for December 2020 and wants to move to a 2021 exam, they are allowing that this year. Typically that is not a thing. So they are allowing that due to COVID and other restrictions. So if anybody is already registered for December and says, I don't think I'm going to make it, you do have the option to moving to another year or to the next year.
Yes, you are correct, Katie. So if you are currently a registered candidate, you can still plan on sitting in December, but you do have the option of deferring. So as a candidate, you should have received lots of information about what options you have and those timeframes. If you are unsure, if you missed those communications, if you want to reach out to CFA Institute directly, we have our contact center, which can be reached by an 800 number, and also email, who can walk you through those options. And then, as said, there's also financial, so there's an early registration fee, and then there's a standard registration fee if you have not and are looking to sit in February. So there is a price difference, but also once you register, the benefit is you immediately get access to that learning ecosystem. So if you are looking to have 6 months or more of study time, the earlier you register, the more time you'd have to study.
Great, thanks, Liz.
So also anyone that is interested, I know the local only memberships are only $100. It gives you access to all events that we have. Most of them are free of cost. Now, a lot of them are virtual and things like that right now, but at some point we hope to have real live in-person events again. So consider that. If you just want to dabble in, maybe consider a local only membership, and you can contact me or the CFA Society Gmail account and inquire about that. It's also on our website as well. Of course, we encourage you to join the Institute, but if you're not sure what you want to do, and maybe you just want to hang around locally for a while, we would definitely love to see you and help you out and walk you through this process.
And also, do you want to tell them a little bit about our premier event? And that's something that we'll be doing annually as well. That's something that will come with the society.
Are you talking to me, Karen?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
She's been here a little bit longer than me, so sorry that I'm lobbying out to you, Kate. Nice catch.
We had a premiere event scheduled for what month are we in? November. It was scheduled for March, April. It was right in the middle of when everything was terrible.
March 27th.
So that has been rescheduled. We don't have a firm date yet. We're hoping this fall or next spring or something, but it'll probably end up being a virtual event at this point for our premiere event. Right now we have Bob Dole with
BlackRock.
Thank you. BlackRock, who's scheduled to be our main speaker at that event. So last year our premiere event was fantastic. It was also in person, so this will be a nice virtual experiment. But I think it's going to be a great event. That's another thing that a local membership will get you access to, and it would pay your cost. So it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, and
anything
also,
you want to add to that?
Yeah, and also, like you said, we're always looking for interesting, creative ways to network and to continue to reach out to the to our membership and to other new potential members. So, especially for you younger folks that are even better at this technology than we are, if you have any great ideas that you want to share with the board, we're more than welcome. You're more than happy to take your ideas. So, we're a very open group, and, we want to be as interactive as we possibly can be. Now, like I said, unfortunately, I had hit the wrong button when I set this up, and I don't know how to undo it. So if you do have any questions, please write something in the chat box, and I will unmute you since we can't see you. Okay, somebody's child is in the background, but anyway, if since it doesn't look as though we have any more questions.
There's one.
Yep, there we go. There we go.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So I just wanted to see if you guys can get candid with me for a second. I know that a lot of prospective candidates, current candidates, and current charter holders are all speaking on this. But with the CFA now being administered twice as much overall, 4 times level 1, twice level 2, twice level 3, people, and if we look at it as a binary, we see people say, one, this is watering down the charter. Once was the gold standard, now it's something that anybody can get. But if you look at the other hand, the person I use as a provider, Mark Meldrum, he mentions that this is the opposite. It won't water down the charter, and it shows that, it gives the people who are going to be taking the exam on whatever date are going to be the ones who are most prepared, as it's now cheaper to move. Like me, I'm scheduled for level 1 February. If I want to switch it to May, I can do so in January if I feel I'm not prepared. So that just shows, and it's cheaper. I don't have to pay $700 for a new exam. I can pay $250 for the switch. Now, for you guys, how do you guys feel overall? If you guys can be candid for a second with us, what's your guys' opinion on, the offering of more times you can take the exam, and just overall, how does this change the charter, if it does at all?
Well, Karen, I'm going to take this first.
Okay.
I was actually on a call yesterday, and Liz can speak to this as well. That's a very valid concern. So I often think, well, I don't want a whole bunch of charter holders, right? If I have a CFA, I already got one. Like, I don't want a bunch of other people. But there's two things. One, much of the value of the charter is the network within it. So the more smart people you have around you, they aren't necessarily all competitors. We all do such vastly different things. Everything Karen explained that she's done, I've done none of it. I do portfolio management. So very different world. Secondly, in the call yesterday, the charter is vastly expanding, particularly in the Far East. The charter in America is not. So the candidacy in America is actually, if you pull out Chinese passport holders, is actually declining. So for whatever reason, Americans are not choosing the charter as much. To be honest, when I graduated college, I didn't even know about it, and I had a finance degree. Like, it's pretty sad that I made it all the way through college and nobody mentioned it to me.
That's why we're doing this now.
Right. So, and it does not change the value of what you learn. Again, I did it because I wanted to learn stuff, not because I had to have it to advance my career. It's great. I'm glad I have it, but it doesn't change what you learn. It also doesn't change the point that only about 12% of the people that start make it all the way through. So it's not for the faint of heart. I failed level 1 once. I failed level 2 once. Thank God I didn't fail level 3. And I never failed anything
as well.
Yeah, I mean, everybody fails level 2 or 3.
Yeah, we've all got a story.
But,
it's part of your war story.
Yeah. Right. It is not for the faint of heart. It is a hard exam. I'd never failed anything in my life. I had no idea what failure was until I took the CFA exam. However, the material I learned it's insanely good and it's insanely relevant. I also have, for my clients specifically, I've met people through CFA Society meetings with strategies that I now implement in my client portfolios that I would not have known but for the CFA Society South Carolina. So I would say, to be candid, yes, there is potential, I guess, for watering down. The more people there are, the more watered down it can be. However, in the Americas in particular, I don't think that's an issue at all.
You know, and I'll also add to that, I agree. You know, obviously we want to keep the pool small, but you know, it starts getting watered down when they make it easier to actually pass it. And like I said, what I found, like with the multiple choice, when they made that change, is they actually made the exam a little bit harder. You know, the pass rates are really, really, really low. You know, as you know, they're less than 50%. So, you know, it's not easy. And for that reason, you know, if you start seeing the computerized programs, you know, going, you know, with 4 times a year, and then, you know, you've got 75% pass rate. Now that I think is a problem, but I don't anticipate that, because, you know, they just keep making the material harder and harder, and to make sure that it's definitely the higher standard, latest information out there. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Liz.
Sure thing. So I am a CFA Institute employee, so take that into consideration. But we like to say that the CFA program is an equalizer. So when you compare it to an MBA program, which it's also somewhat comparable, you know, you could get either or both. But to get into an MBA program, their admission rates are relatively low, but then you know, higher percentage of graduation. For the CFA program, everyone can register for the CFA program, but then for level 1, our global pass rate is around 34%. So we want to make it accessible to individuals around the world. So by going to computer-based testing, we're opening up, we'll have exam centers available in areas that we've never been able to have exam centers. But then it's really up to that individual to be able to study and demonstrate they understand the concepts and the information. And so, as it's been said, the exam is not going to get easier. 34% pass rate for level 1. It's around 40% for level 2, around 50% for level 3. So we don't feel like it's being diluted, but we want to be able to provide accessibility to everyone in the world, whether it's in South Carolina, India, South Africa, anywhere. So that is our stance on it, of course. But then I want to circle back on postponing the exam if you don't feel like you are ready to sit for it. I'm going to have to reach out to the team to get some clarification on that. But I don't think that is an option. Once you register, you have a short window to pick your window, and that window is based on your exam center that you choose. But I don't think that you would be able to change that appointment if you wanted to switch from February to May. I think there would be fees involved with that, but I don't think that is an intended option. Of course, there's exceptions, but I don't think that is the intended option for our candidates. But I can circle back with Katie on that information.
Sure. We'll make sure we get all that to you. I think a lot of the switching is COVID related this year.
Yes.
In the past, you paid and you sat. That was pretty much it.
Yeah. So correct. So this year it's unique. Of course, we're not changing the curriculum. So if you had planned to sit previously, it's the same curriculum. But of course, hopefully you'll be ready to sit. But in the future, once everything is computer-based testing, I don't think that, hopefully we'll not have a pandemic like this ever again, but hopefully in the future, the intention would not be that you can kind of switch around and postpone based on your comfort level of the content.
Yeah, definitely. Great. Thanks for that, Liz. Does anybody else have any questions?
Can I ask a question to the group? Is there anything, So for those of you that are in school or maybe studying for level 1, is there anything in particular that you're interested in for a career, or is there, I have a whole bunch of people say, I want to go into investment banking, or I want to go into wealth management, or I want to go into, what are you guys thinking about for your career path? I'm just thinking future too, what types of people you'd like to learn from on these calls. We have access, like I said, everybody in our society does something different. So it would give us an idea of what maybe you guys are interested in as far as
absolutely.
what types of jobs we do. Does
anyone
have any of our
unmuted, so I can go first. I don't see any of my colleagues at Blackbaud, so luckily I won't get pushed down for this one. I currently am recruiting, talking with just private banks, whether that be JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, or Bank of America here in Charleston, and kind of just wanting to jump into the private wealth space and getting into a role further down into my career of being either a client advisor or here, at least at Bank of America, being a portfolio manager, but kind of managing the investments and kind of getting that client-facing role. And I feel like I can fit both in the private bank or private wealth management career. So that's where I feel CFA would definitely help on that front.
Great. Anybody else?
All those college kids still have no idea what they're doing with their lives, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I have no idea. That's where I'm about.
Well, let me tell you, my first job out of college is managing a Toys R Us. So sometimes life takes you in weird directions.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things when we'll be doing these once a month. And so each time we'll have different people, and like we have all different flavors, as we said. And one thing, again, I do want to reiterate for everybody is to make sure we take advantage of those scholarships. That's a shame to see those go to waste.
Also, last thing too, on computer-based testing, we're working with potentially other societies or potentially us to have a call directly related to that. So we'll make sure when that is scheduled that information gets out to everybody as well.
Excellent.
Is there a method in which you guys heard about this? Because some of you are students, and so you're not obviously in our candidate list.
Put in the chat box.
Yeah, maybe chat to how you heard about these, or
how you heard about us.
Ah, okay. What teacher?
Yeah,
that's what I figured.
Great. Oh, okay. So the college professors are the ones that's great. That's good to hear. Okay. We'll make sure we continue to reach out to them and make sure that they know about these as well. And if you know any of your friends that are in your classes, we'll be doing these once a month. So we'll be putting this information out. Great. So, well, thank you everybody for coming, and feel free to reach out to this society. If you have any direct questions for me, you can reach me at Karen@eastlightinvest.com. Or you feel free to call me on my cell phone, 864-551-1820, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions personally. And thanks again, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.